That's cool. Okay, so sit yourself on your lift and just move the stuff from the last session. So move yourself, sit yourself on your lift. Come into a cross leg position. So feel that you can land kind of evenly on your seat bones, where the seat bones feel evenly spread, evenly placed on the mat. And there is a clear kind of feeling of balance from the seat bones to the chest. Lift and open the chest, and then extend your arms outwards. So the palms initially face down to meet the floor, and then turn your palms of your hands up to the ceiling. So at the same time of turning the hands, it's not just turning the wrists. What you should see is you can rotate the triceps around towards the biceps. So that action in itself helps you to kind of lift and open the chest. But if you do it a couple of times, turning the triceps to reach the biceps, then maybe you also notice that it draws the trapezius muscle down the back. So that diamond-shaped muscle from the neck stretching out into the armpits, down into the kind of lumbar spine, that muscle draws downwards. And that's really important for lots of our standing poses, especially when you've got your arms over your head. So bring your arms up over your head, but try and maintain that drawing down of the trapezius. Just listen to the sound of the breath, drawing the trapezius muscle downwards. Bring your arms outwards again, turn the palms down. Take the upper arms with you, and then maybe you feel that the trapezius muscle kind of lifts up, and then turn the whole of the arm upwards, the palm upwards, turning that armpit chest forwards, rotating the tricep around to the biceps so that the trapezius muscle moves downwards, and then raise your arms. Keeping the trapezius muscle moving down your back. Bring your hands into Namaste from above. Bring the hands down so that the elbows are level with each other. Lengthen the elbows into the shoulders. Draw that trapezius muscle downwards. And then just look down at the floor, look at something that doesn't move. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Soften the jaw and in the tongue, soften the throat. Just listening to the sounds of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. And very gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone. Then just gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. Good. So just listen to the sound of the breath. Just feel the rhythm of your breath to start off with. Just notice whether the in-breath or the out-breath are longer. Or whether they're even. So usually one of the two will be longer than the other. It's good to observe that right from the start. So for me, my out breath always feels a little longer than my in breath. Take a good, strong, deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side with the exhalation. Continue to breathe in and out, maintaining the observation of the rhythm of the breath. And then come back to center, grip around your knees, lift and open the chest, drive your spine upwards. Take a good inhalation with and turn with an out breath. Continuing to observe the rhythm of your breath. And then come back to the center. Stretch your legs out in front. Hold your belt around your feet. And then just have the feet together, the big toes together, kind of heels slightly apart. Press the kneecaps firmly into the floor, press the thigh muscles firmly into the floor. So it's almost like someone is standing on the thigh, someone is standing on the kneecap, someone's standing on the shins. And then elevate the chest upwards. Just observe that whether from that piece of exertion in the legs, whether you have changed the rhythm of the breath or the rhythm of the breath remains the same. Extend the spine upwards. So again, just observe which is longer, the in-breath or the out-breath. So there's a concept in pranayama called Samavrtti, or a type of pranayama called Samavrtti pranayama. And it's basically where you, the in-breath and the out-breath are the same length, they're the same duration. So the easiest way to kind of pick up that rhythm is to count the breath. So if your in-breath is maybe a count of 4 or 5, then make the out-breath a count of 4 or 5, and try and make the kind of entirety of the out-breath kind of last for that same count. So just a few cycles, but I want you to do this with a little bit of exertion, with extension into the body. So really work the thighs, press the kneecaps down, hit the thighs into the shins into the floor, and then extend from the hips up into the armpits. So observe what that exertion does to your breath. And then count the breath. So making the in-breath and the out-breath even. We won't be counting all the way through, but just to get the general rhythm. Maintaining that sense of exertion in the legs, in the chest, in the arms, in the spine. Observe which of the breaths, the in-breath or the out-breath, is you're having to adapt. Release the belt, raise your arms over your head. Continue to count the breath. Release the arms down and then try and maintain that rhythm. Come off your lift, sit down onto the back of your heels. Big toes are together, your knees are nice and wide. So as you establish your kind of zip blocking action in the shins, press in the shins firmly down into the floor. As you establish that, I want you to go back to that breath, that even breath, Samavrtti. You don't necessarily need to count it now, but try and keep that rhythm. As you focus on that rhythm of the breath, press the shins into the floor really consciously so that the thighs come to life. Suck the hips inwards, lengthen from the hips up into the armpits. On an out breath, come forward. Just see how you can maintain that rhythm of the breath. Notice that when you drop your head onto the floor, maybe the breath changes. So if it impedes the in-breath, especially, then raise your head. Just keep your head kind of hovering between your arms. So either counting the breath or just observing the rhythm. Come up onto your knees, turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down. Again, just observing the rhythm of the breath. Maybe observe that as you come into Adho Mukha Svanasana, that the breath naturally slows down a little. So maybe the count of 4 becomes a count of 5. Maybe the count of 5 becomes a count of 6. Just maintaining the focus on that evenness of the breath, the even rhythm of the breath. Step Forwards, come up into a standing position. And then bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Turning your toes inwards. Just have some blocks for your hands for half Uttanasana if you normally need them. It's good to start off high and then go low rather than go all the way down. Because often if you go all the way down first, then you kind of miss some of the activation. So lift, open the chest, stretch your arms out to the sides. Just breathe evenly. Turn the palms to face the ceiling. Rotate the triceps around to the biceps, drawing the trapezius muscle down your back. On an in-breath, raise your arms upwards. Keep rotating those triceps around to the biceps, and then keep them rotating and bring the palms of the hands forwards. And on an out-breath, come down into half Uttanasana. Just maintaining that evenness of the breath. Go down a little lower, then go down a little lower. Observe if there's any change in your breath. Come down to the floor. Or stay on the blocks if you need to protect your back. Continuing to inhale and exhale with evenness and consciousness. I was reading an interesting fact about the lungs yesterday, and that was that if you kind of the entire surface area of your lungs, if you include the alveoli at the end of the bronchial tubes, is the size of a tennis court. So there's a lot of surface area within the lungs. So as you inhale and exhale, there's lots of surface area to fill. So the size of a tennis court, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Inside your lungs. So there's the area at the front of the chest, which we tend to often breathe into. And then the armpit chest, which we maybe don't breathe into. And the back chest that perhaps we never even consider. So breathe evenly throughout the lungs, into both lungs evenly, bringing balance into the in-breath and to the out-breath. Draw yourself down, bring your hands around the heels if you can, and the backs of the ankles, draw yourself down, but don't let it affect your breath. Bring your hands forwards, bring your hands into your hips, and then come up into a standing position, straighten and bending your knees if you need to on the way up. So come into Tadasana. The inner edge of the feet together, just lift and open the chest, drive the spine upwards. Just focusing on the evenness of the breath. So to get truly even breath, maybe you have to kind of work the out breath a little harder than usual. Maybe you have to focus on the in breath a little more than usual. Arms out nice and wide, in toward your chest, and then step or jump the feet apart. So your left toes in and your right leg and foot all the way out. And then turn the palms and the triceps to the biceps. So turn the palms to face the ceiling. Draw the triceps around to the biceps so you feel the trapezius muscle move down the back. Bring the hands to face the floor, but don't let the triceps kind of ping back. Keep the triceps moving forwards towards the biceps. And then come down. Find your shin. Keep the triceps rotating to the biceps. Keep the breath even. Maybe just coming into the pose has disturbed the breath. So bring the breath back to evenness. Just look downwards rather than upwards because we're concentrating on the breath. Just even in breaths, even out breaths. Drawing that trapezius muscle downward so you can lift the chest. Raise the top arm, come back to the center. Just release your arms for a second. Swap your feet around, turn your right toes in. And your left leg and foot all the way out. So just like elements of nature are kind of interconnected, like we're kind of indelibly interconnected with bees and pollinators, because without those we can't, no food grows. So watching, kind of a bee kind of feed from a flower is a really, really important thing for life. So just as we're kind of completely interconnected with a bee and with a pollinator, when you raise your arms out, everything that the body does is kind of interconnected. So turning the palms upwards so that you can kind of facilitate that action of rotating the triceps around to the biceps. Draws the reaction of that is that it helps you to draw the trapezius muscle down, and the reaction of that is that it helps you to drawing the trapezius muscle down lifts the front chest. So there's an interconnected action between the arms and the trapezius and the chest. So just feel that gives you space to feel the tennis court. Bring your hands down, but keep the palms facing down, but keep the triceps rotating around towards the biceps, and then come down, find the shin. Just look down as we're focusing on the breath. Keep the triceps rotating towards the biceps, keeping the trapezius muscle down, the chest up, and then keeping the breath even. So don't forget about the legs. Keep the legs charged. Breathe in evenly. Come up on an in-breath. And then step or jump your feet back together, come back into Tadasana. Just return the breath back to normal. So we can do Parvakonasana. So you might want a block for your hand, or you might want to just go down onto the floor. So have a block where you can reach it just in case. So let's have it on the right side of your mat. Lift and open the chest, stretch the arms outwards, turn the palms upwards, rotating the triceps around towards the biceps so that the trapezius muscle moves downwards. Turn the palms to face the floor, but don't disturb the upper arms. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump, go wide. So slightly wider than Trikonasana. Just reset the arms. Turn the palms upwards so that the trapezius moves down the chest, front chest lifts up, and then turn the palms down, but keep the arms rotating. Turn the left toes in, the right leg and foot all the way out, and then just pass through Virabhadrasana 2, keeping the back leg straight, bending that front knee, lifting the chest. Just observe the breath at this stage. On an out breath, reach down, find the outside of the foot or the block, turn the palm and then reach over. Just look underneath the armpit, but keep focusing on that breath, that evenness of the breath. Focusing on the breath, but keeping the legs sharp, keeping the chest turning, keeping the trapezius muscle moving down. And then come back to the center. Just bring the hands down, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. Just come back to the breath. Just see if the breath has changed. So this pose particularly requires quite a lot of determination and effort and exertion. So it affects the breath. So observing that it affects the breath. Rotate the upper arms, turn the palms up, and then bring the arms back down. Straighten the back leg. Just pass through Virabhadrasana 2, finding that right angle, really working the back leg, finding the rhythm of the breath. Bring the hand down and then reach over. Maintaining the focus on the counted breath or the rhythmic breath. Come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump the feet back together. Come back into Tadasana. Come back to the rhythm, to the rhythmic breath. Bring your feet hip width apart, turn your toes in, raise your arms, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows, and then hang down in Uttanasana, or use the support for your arms if you're only coming halfway, so like the back of a chair or a table. Breathe in nice and softly. Breathe in evenly. Continuing to count the breath. So finding evenness in the breath also suggests that we need to find evenness in the body. So both legs working evenly. Release your hands to the floor and then just walk your hands away and come into dog down. Bring your hands shoulder width apart, bring your feet hip width apart, and then come back into the breath. Recounting the breath. Dog down is a really good pose for focused breathing. So try and bring the same level of physical balance as you're obtaining in your breath balance. If I'm holding you too long, come down, but you tend to find that when you work with the breath, your levels of exertion feel more manageable. That doesn't mean you exert any less. It's probably the contrary, to be perfectly honest, but we can manage the exertion more easily. Okay, everyone come down onto your knees. Just sit back on your heels for a moment. And then just come forwards into a restful Adho Mukha Virasana. Aiming to maintain connection between the seat bones and your heels. Maintaining the even counted breath. Come up onto all fours. Just have your hands underneath your shoulders, really precisely, and then have your knees underneath your hips. So we're going to go into Rajakopotasana, the pigeon pose. So bring your right knee to make contact with your right wrist. Bring the foot out to the side of that right foot. So the heel is going to sit underneath the left hip. So make sure that that foot is turned out sufficiently, and then stretch back with the left arm, with the left leg, sorry, and then come up onto your fingertips. Tadasana that back leg, turning the thigh muscle, really the frontal thigh muscle inwards, turning the back of the thigh outwards, lift and open the chest. Go back to the even breath. So fill in the tennis court with the in-breath. Just come down onto your elbows, palms pressing down into the floor, focusing again on evenness of breath. Maintaining the turn of the left leg, the turn of the front of the thigh of the left leg, so that the back of the thigh broadens, the buttock flesh rotates outwards. And then, if you can, create a couple of fists for your hands and rest your head down onto your forehead. If that is too strong for you, stay on your elbows. If that's too strong, then go up into dog down. Just focus on the evenness of the breath. Let the legs release a little. So we just kind of use a little moment of yin just to release into the floor, but maintain the focus on that Samavrtti breathing. Just letting the body release. Okay, and then raise your head. Just come back up onto your elbows. Walk your hands back towards your knees, and then turn the left toes in, and then walk that left leg back in, and then release the right leg. Just have a little swing from the hips. So each stage of that Rajakopotasana version, did you notice whether it affected the breath? So maybe it's much easier to get full inhalations now. Maybe there's a change. Just come back to neutral, and then bring the left knee to make contact with the left wrist. Bring the left foot out to the side, so it's going to sit underneath the right hip. And then just lengthen that right leg away. Come up onto the fingertips and lengthen into the chest. Just feel how the front of the hip on that right side opens up. Tadasana that back leg by turning the thigh, the frontal thigh inwards, feeling that that in turn broadens the back of the thigh, broadens the back of the right buttock, drawing the buttock towards the hip. Lift and open the chest. Go back to your even breathing. Listen to the sounds of the breath as it enters and as it exits. I actually need to plug my laptop in. Breathe in nice and evenly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Okay, you can come down onto your elbows. Just breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Maintaining that evenness of breath. Still working the back leg just to keep the hips even. Notice if anything changes in the breath. Create a couple of fists for your hands, but just go for whatever feels natural to start off with, and then swap them around so the opposite wrist is on the top. And then bring your head down. Just focusing on the evenness of your breath. So the evenness of the in-breath, the evenness of the out-breath. So Samavrtti pranayama is where you bring evenness to the in-breath and to the out-breath, but then you also introduce evenness in retentions. So you breathe in for maybe a count of 4 or 5, and then eventually you hold the breath for 4 or 5, or you retain the breath for 4 or 5, and you breathe out for 4 or 5, and then you hold that post-exhalative retention for 5, 4 or 5, and then you work with even in-breath and out-breath and even retentions. But just at the most basic level, we don't retain usually while we're doing physical poses, but we can certainly focus on the evenness of the breath, because focusing so specifically on the breath does something to our pose. It fills the pose with lightness, and it means that you can stay in a pose for longer rather than just a fleeting visit. You spend a little time in the pose, finding that after maybe 30 seconds, your pose starts to, maybe in Trikonasana, your pose, you start to lose your back leg. So you can know that and you can focus on that. So it's just a way, the breath is a way of helping us to maintain the pose for a longer period. Okay, raise your head, bring your hands back to your knees, lift and open the chest, come up onto the fingertips, just do a really good stretch. And then bring the palms down, turn the toes under that right foot, and then step the right foot in, and then come back to the center, and then just have a little rock from side to side. Just feel that you can really release out of the pose. Just breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Then sit back on your heels, big toes together, knees apart, and then stretch forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Maintaining that evenness of the breath. Lift your head, keep your right hand where it is. Thread the left hand through the right armpit so that you can keep that arm straight. Bring the shoulder down onto the floor, bring your head onto the floor, and then just extend into both arms evenly. So it really opens up the shoulder blade region. Breathe in evenly. You'll definitely find it difficult to keep the seat bones firmly down on your heels, but just try and draw those seat bones down towards the floor. And then come back to the center, and then stretch the right arm underneath the left arm, and then just bring the elbow down, the shoulder down, bring the head down. So sometimes this is known as threading the needle. Just feel that the shoulder blade of the shoulder that's on the floor feels like it opens up. Keep the breath even. And then come back to the center, just come back into Virasana, Adho Mukha Virasana. Okay, walk your hands to your knees, push your hands into the floor and then come up into a seated position. Just come into cross legs for a moment or two. And then grip around your knees, lift and open the chest, draw the shoulder blades forwards, draw the trapezius muscle down. Just close your eyes for a moment. And then just go back to the breath, that evenness of the breath, counting the breath this time if you've just been relying on rhythm. So filling the tennis court all the way evenly. Draw your chin down to meet your chest. Jalandhara Bandha. Maybe you can incorporate Mula Bandha, lifting the anal sphincter up towards the diaphragm. Just even breathing, counting the breath. There are no issues with blood pressure, high or low, or heart conditions. Then we're going to introduce a single count of retention at the top of the in-breath. So if the in-breath is a count of 5, then you hold for 1, and then you breathe out for 5, and then you just return back. No post-exhalative retention yet. So breathe in for 5, hold for 1, breathe out for 5, breathe in for 5, hold for 1. Breathe out for 5. Just a couple more cycles. So we're charging up the body. And then just release Mula Bandha, release Jalandhara Bandha. Just bring the breath back to a normal rhythm, no longer holding the breath. Just grip around your knees, lift and open the chest. And then turn all the way across to the right side, digging the back hand firmly into the floor, turning the chest. Come back to the center, look around your knees, lift and open the chest. And then turn to the left. and then come back to the center. Just get your blanket, fold it just so that it's in a little kind of pillow shape. Move your equipment out of the way so that you can just release evenly without any kind of constriction. Down onto the floor. We're just going to run slightly over just by a minute or two, so I hope that's okay. Just lay yourself down in a straight line, take your glasses off. A really good straight line along the floor. Let the feet fall apart. And then consciously allow yourself to relax, unhooking the muscles. The arms to release into the floor, the legs to release into the floor, chest to release into the floor, the neck and the head. Just maintain gentle breathing, no longer counting the breath. Focusing on continuing to energize with the in-breath, and release and relax with the out-breath. As soon as you let go with the physical body, maybe you notice that your energy starts to rise to the top. Distribute that energy evenly with the in-breath and the out-breath. Just basking in the flow of positive energy. Just wiggle the toes, fingers, bringing your body back into this pose of Sirvasana. And then bend your knees, draw your knees in towards your chest, just have a little rock from side to side, top to bottom, just giving yourself a grounding massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Rub the palms of your hands really briskly together to create heat between the palms of your hands. And then cover your eyes with the warmth of the palms. Open your eyes with the eyes covered. Look into the warm darkness in the palms of the hands. And just very gently ease the hands away from the face so that you experience the light as though the sun is kind of coming up from the horizon. Straighten the top leg, come back into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Just closing your eyes, drawing the breath in through the nose, down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning. Good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions, the breath work, forward bends, the twists, reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just observe positive energy you have brought to the body. Positive lightness on the inside. And send some of that positive lightness out into the world. And then just very gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel like you have given yourself some kind of mental focus and some energy for so you can bring that energy into your day. So thank you very much for joining me this morning. Hope you feel good. I hope you feel nice and light, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.